On a charge, President Biden says half of all cars sold in the United States must be electric by 2030. No pass, no entry. Italy and France are to start enforcing COVID vaccine certificates for restaurants, cinemas and public transport. But will it hit tourism? Hello there and a very warm welcome to World Business Report. I'm Victoria Fritz. We're going to start in the United States, where President Biden has taken a pretty large step towards his goal of slashing US greenhouse emissions. How? Well, he signed an executive order requiring half of all vehicles sold in the United States to be electric by 2030, a move backed by the top auto companies. Well, he signed off and then he fired up the Jeep, didn't he? The electric Jeep. The Biden administration is also proposing new, tougher emissions rules over the next few years. And these would reverse former President Trump's lowering of fuel economy standards.
We have a playbook and it's going to work. Today, I'm announcing steps we're taking to set a new pace for electric vehicles. First, I'm following through on the campaign commitment to reverse the previous administration's short-sighted rollback of vehicle emissions and efficiency standards. I'm doing so with the support of the auto industry, the automobile industry. Today, the Environmental Protection Agency and the Department of Transportation are unveiling proposals to do just that. These agencies are beginning to work on the next round of standards for a broad class of vehicles, for cars, SUVs, pickup trucks, medium and heavy-duty vehicles. Importantly, we have announcements today from automakers representing nearly the entire auto industry market who have positioned around the ambition of 40 to 50% of all vehicles sold by 2030 in America being electric.
Well, the big word there is ambition, because the executive order is not legally binding. Let's bring in Swetha Ramachandran, the investment manager at GM Investments. Thanks very much for joining me, Swetha. If it's not legally binding, is it going to work?
That's certainly the million-dollar question, given that it is voluntary at this moment. The individual automakers in the U.S. have been making their own pledges. General Motors, for instance, wants to phase out non-electric vehicles entirely by 2035. Ford is saying that they won't sell non-EVs up to more than 40% of their total portfolio by the same period. That said, it requires a lot of work behind the scenes to go right for this voluntary target to even be met, which is mainly in the form of infrastructure and charging points, which is the government's domain, not the automakers.
Now, Tesla has arguably done more than any other company to progress the agenda of electric vehicles, and they do make up about 70% of all the electric vehicles in the United States. But crucially, they were kind of frozen out of this summit where, you know, Biden was swinging around in that Jeep. Why is that? I mean, what's going on there?
Yeah, it's certainly surprising that such a homegrown success, which has gone global, such as Tesla, would have been left out. The implication from the press secretary was that the automakers that had been invited to the summit were all basically unionized, which Tesla isn't. And there is a particular sensitivity in that the auto industry, which contributes to about 3% of U.S. GDP, is also among the largest employers in the U.S. Directly and indirectly through the supply chain. The auto industry is estimated to employ about 8 million people. Electrification carries with it a particular sensitivity in that the components are fewer and the production process is simpler, which may lead to a loss of jobs. And I think that's the balance that the administration is trying to tread here.
Do you think President Biden is going to go down as the great climate president? Because it seems to be what he's gunning for.
Well, at this time, I think a lot of the measures are really a dialing back of the measures that were reversed during the prior Trump administration. So President Obama is really the one who had set out very stringent targets for emissions reductions, which were then rolled back by the Trump administration, which offered more concessions to the auto industry. Now we're seeing these measures be dialed back again in favor of what President Obama had previously announced. This is a step in the right direction. I don't think it's necessarily as ambitious as, say, plans in the UK or the EU to ban all non-EV vehicles by the early 2030s, but it is a step in the right direction.
Okay, Swetha, thanks very much for your time and your insights today. Now let's turn our attention to the travel industry, because European countries are beginning to demand proof of COVID immunity for access to a whole range of different venues and services. As of Monday in France, to visit a cafe, you're going to need to show a health pass, prove that you've got 2 vaccine doses or a recent negative COVID test. Elodie Bertha is a Paris tour guide, and I asked her what impact this is going to have on the city.
Unfortunately, I think it will be limited because already we have very, very few tourists from outside the EU. So it will not be as devastating as you expect it could be, sadly.
If you don't have a double vaccine in France, you have to have a PCR test, don't you? I mean, how much of that is a restriction on trade and on economic activity in the country?
That will be harder, I think. It has to be, so either the test, the vaccine, the PCR or the antigen test, which is slightly less bothering than the PCR, and also the results are faster to get. But a number of people still do not have the full vaccine scheme, and it means that even if they want to go for a beer on a terrace in a bar as of Monday, they will need to have a test certificate. So I was hearing yesterday a number of bar owners saying that they will resume to the previous takeaway formula for their beers and coffees and so on, so as not to ask for the QR code and not to lose too many clients.
Well, this is the problem, though, isn't it? Because these tests, they only last a couple of days, don't they? And you're going to, therefore, if you don't have a double vaccine, then you're going to have to keep doing these tests in order to just go out and sit down and have a beer with your friends. So, I mean, do you feel that this health pass is going to have an impact on the vaccination status of French nationals? Are more people going to take up the jab?
It has started, actually. When the president announced the upcoming measures, the ones that arrive on Monday, there was this huge boost on the vaccination activity around the country. Even people on holiday were rushing to get the vaccination, because it also includes some people for their job, people who work in hospitals, in retirement homes, etc. So these people, if they want to go back to work after their holidays, they need to have the full vaccination. So they were rushing to get their first dose in order to have the time to get the second dose before September. So it already has a big impact on the vaccination activity in the country. But still, a few people remain very hostile to this vaccination.
Now, Paris, of course, is normally such an international destination, isn't it? I mean, perhaps a little bit of relief this week that France has come off the Amber Plus watch list for the UK. I mean, do you foresee a boost in trade over the next few weeks, or do you think that this will be a real barrier to trade?
Again, I'm afraid we still don't have very, very many visitors, so it won't have a big effect on numbers. At least not in Paris, because Paris is not a very big destination in the summer. Roughly, I mean, generally people like to go elsewhere in France in the summer. So again, the numbers are not very high right now. It was very satisfactory, so that the ban was lifted for France, of course, but it will not translate into a huge amount of people coming in and out of Paris right now.
Now to a classic David and Goliath battle over oat milk. On the one side, we've got a multinational business valued at $10 billion on the Nasdaq stock market. And on the other, a teeny tiny little family-run farm here in the UK. And on Thursday, those farmers, Philip and Rebecca Rayner, actually won their High Court battle against the oat milk giant Oatly, which accused them of infringing their trademark. Michelle Fleury has all the details.
The Swedish company Oatly is a pioneer in dairy alternatives made from plants. Founded in the 1990s, it produced milk substitutes made from oats. Now, it is growing quickly. In fact, it has a deal with Singaporean beverage giant Yohap Singh to bring its non-dairy oat milk products to Asia. And it has already helped to popularise the new alt milk here in the United States, where it began selling shares to the public earlier this year. But with success comes imitators, or at least that is the argument Oatly sought to make in a British court. The brand, endorsed by celebrities including Oprah Winfrey, took Britain's Glebe family farm to court in a bid to stop it selling the pure oaty drink, accusing it of trademark infringement. However, a High Court judge has ruled in favour of the UK farm, saying that while there were similarities between the initial pure oaty and the Oatly packaging, including the use of the colour blue, it was hard to see how this would lead to confusion among consumers. And the Swedish firm, which, as I mentioned, began selling shares to the public in May, is caught up in another legal dispute here in America, with an activist investor accusing the company of overstating revenue.
Michelle Fleury there. That is all your business news. Don't forget you can get in touch with me on Twitter. I'm at VFritzNews. Thanks very much for your time.